Heyo, I'm Colby from Sanitarium Productions, back again with another G.I. Joe action figure review. Today we're taking a look at the G.I. Joe Greatest Battles box set. This came out in 2008, I believe, so it's essentially the 6th pack of multi-pack figures with the DVD. So the other 5 were the build your own mass device kind of thing going on here, and it had some really cool figures with the different miniseries kind of packed together. This one is a little bit different in that it's not really a themed set. Each of the rest of those were kind of themed around one of the miniseries from the cartoon series, like the Pyramid of Darkness and the mass device and all that. This one is more just a generic Greatest Battles is kind of what it says, but it's a cool looking set. It kind of follows the G.I. Joe Resolute kind of theme a little bit, and the figures themselves look more to be the updated version of some of the ones from the Valor vs. Venom line. So it's still a pretty cool set. We got the nice box art here. The cool DVD here inside. The figures you can see, very nice. Some nice artwork here on the front. The top doesn't really do a whole lot. The sides are pretty well standard here. Tells you what's in the pack. The back here has some just generic artwork from the figures included: Duke, Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes, and Storm Shadow. And the bottom, pretty standard as well. Nothing really to write home about. Can't see this side probably too well, but some cool artwork there also. But at any rate, let's go ahead and unbox this thing and take a look at the figures inside. We've got a piece of tape over here on the side holding this in, so we're just going to go ahead and cut that off real quick. And then this should just fold out. This particular set, again, it's not really highly sought after for whatever reason, so you can usually get it for a decent price. I want to say it's in the 30 to 40 range, as opposed to the slightly heftier prices some of the other DVD battle packs kind of call for nowadays. But we got the cool DVD here. It doesn't say which episodes are on here. 33 minutes is what it says, so I don't know. I'll have to look at that and see which are on there. But still, it's a cool DVD. Really nice cover art. Looks really nice. Traditionally, this would also be where you would have your mass device set, but there's no extra build-a-piece in this or anything. The figure pack just lifts out, and then we've got the accessory pack kind of taped in here at the bottom, so we're just going to cut that off as well. Pull that out, and then all the rest of this is just cardboard. So still looks kind of cool. You might could do something with that if you wanted to, but not going to do anything with it myself. So we got the figures here. Looks like we do not have really any rubber bands holding these things in, so that's a change in pace. Let's just go ahead and yank these guys out. We do have some of the accessories are taped in, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that tape first. And this up here. That should probably do it. So we have Cobra Commander here. Nice cloth cape on this guy. His sword popped off and ran over here, so we'll put that back with him. We've got Snake Eyes here. we've got a cool Duke figure. And I just pulled his hand off, but that's okay. And his backpack popped off as well, so we'll just snap that back on there. And then we got a cool Snake Eyes figure. And his web gear and a pistol. That's all this stuff we got, so we'll toss that to the side. So we get 4 cool figures in the set, a DVD, and the battle stands. So we'll zoom in on these things individually now and take a closer look. We're going to start with just the battle stands here. So these are taped up like they normally are. Just want to slice that tape open real quick and dump these guys out. The 25th anniversary line was good about giving us these cool figure stands. Some of the movie line figures don't always include it with like vehicles and stuff, so I'm always happy when I see these things, and they're pretty cool. These are pretty standard battle stands here, figure stands. You've got one for each of the figures: Cobra Commander, Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, and Duke. Pretty standard 25th anniversary release here. We've got the raised Cobra logo and one single foot peg for the bad guys. Same thing for Storm Shadow. The G.I. Joe guys, Duke, the nice G.I. Joe logo on it, and 2 foot pegs. I've never really understood why they do this particular variation where the Joes have 2 and Cobra only has 1, but that's the way they do most of these. So anyways, and Snake Eyes. So pretty standard, straightforward figure stands, but I am glad they are included in these. The first figure we have here is Cobra Commander. It is the hooded Cobra Commander as well. The actual figure itself, very nice looking by the way, is the same figure that we have seen in the past, same sculpt. We've seen this in the Dollar General release and a couple of others since then, but it's still a really cool looking figure. The paint scheme on it is more reminiscent again of the Valor vs. Venom 2-pack line, if I remember correctly. Still really nice, a very good kind of differentiation here in the color scheme than some of the past figures we've seen. And it really does pop pretty well looking at it here. And again, we've got this nice cloth cape here. Some people do not like cloth capes, but I actually really dig them. So this one works pretty well here. We don't actually have any crazy rubber bands to deal with on this guy, so that's another bonus here. Got some kind of two-tone blue going on here. Kind of almost a metallic sheen on the bottom boots here, which is really nice. Kind of helps to separate that from the kind of paler blue on his legs. Again, I don't know how well that's showing up on camera or not, but in person it just works really well. Lots of detail work here. Again, this cape is removable, so we're going to move it for the time being here. We'll notice some detail work here. We've got some nice silver highlights here on these buckles, and this chain that goes across is kind of a different shade of gray there. Pretty straightforward cloth anyways. Looks really nice and works really well. We'll count that as an accessory. We also have this cool sword that we've seen in a couple of different versions of this guy, but it's really nice. Got a cool metallic gold plating here on the Cobra symbol, the snake head. Nice silver highlights on the actual blade itself. It just looks really awesome. So very nice sword there for you people who like swords. The other accessory actually is a holstered pistol in his side. If I can hold on to it. Again, I'm not much for knowing some of the details on these weapons. So, you know, if anybody out there knows more specifics about, you know, what type of pistol this is, etc., feel free to drop a comment down below and let us know. Still a very nice little detail pistol here. Very cool looking. And that's pretty much it for accessories. We do have the holster sheath for the sword here on the side, and the holster for the pistol on his other side, so that's very nice. As far as articulation goes, we've got the standard head swivel, 360-degree movement, and lots of up and down motion on this guy, so that's really cool. I do like this, the way they have the Cobra symbol painted on this guy and on the head. Very cool looking. It looks a little bit more sinister than some of the other versions that we have had in the past, and I really do like that a lot. It just looks really menacing to me, so very nice. Standard ball and swivel at the shoulder joint, standard ball and swivel at the elbow joint, and just swivel at the wrist. Pretty standard there. We've got the waist twist feature there, and he's got plenty of ab crunch feature, so you can do whatever you need to. Standard T-hook at the waist. Legs go pretty much anywhere you need them to. He has the traditional kind of, I guess that was a sheath for a knife or something on some of the Cobra troopers. Doesn't have anything to go in it, so not that big a deal. But anyways, he does have a double knee joint. If I can get the double knee joint to work. There we go. Double knee joint there. And he has a swivel. And that looks like it for the boot, is just a single swivel point there. So still pretty nice though. It works really well. Looks really nice paint job on this guy. We'll notice the some of the detail work here. He's got all this cool metals and stuff on his chest here, and a nice gold color, as well as the button pattern going around his the rest of his regalia. So it looks really nice. Cool little highlight here on his belt buckle. Very nice. Bright red color on this shoulder strap thing. So yeah, it actually just works really well. It's a really awesome looking Cobra Commander figure, to be honest with you. I'm actually really impressed with this thing. Was not expecting much out of another Cobra Commander release, but I actually really like this one a lot. So his sword fits in his sheath there pretty easily. We stick his pistol back in the holster. He's got that nice little flap there to keep it from falling out. If I can get it back in there. There we go. And then we'll throw his cape back on him there. So, yes, this is actually a really awesome Cobra Commander figure. And actually probably one of my favorite ones so far, to be honest with you. This thing just works really well, so yes, very good job on this guy. I would probably say it's probably worth picking this setup for this guy alone, just based on what I'm seeing so far. Very nice figure, very awesome here. Next up, we've got Storm Shadow. Again, this figure is based on the Valor vs. Venom line, so it's a kind of a new variation that we haven't seen in the 25th anniversary line so far, so it works pretty well. It looks really nice. It's very similar to what they have with this Storm Shadow Snake Eyes figure in this set, so it pairs nicely. I'll point out that unfortunately there is a little bit of a paint bleed here on the bottom of his leg here, but overall that's not too bad. Same basic sculpt that we have seen in the past. We've got, looks like just a regular Cobra Trooper bottom half here, and some traditional Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow upper bits. Still looks really nice. We do have a couple of these rubber bands holding his weapons in place. We're just going to go ahead and yank those off real quick. And then we'll get into the actual accessory bits here. So he does not come with very many weapons. Really, he only comes with his two katana and, is that a wasabi? Tanto is the smaller one. I think it's wasabi or something to that effect for the slightly medium-sized sword here. So anyways, pretty bland on details on this guy, to be honest with you. His pack does come off. Pretty standard. Most of these Storm Shadows figures that we have seen have this kind of backpack on here. So he's got some nice arrows. No bow this go around, but that's fine. He does look a little hefty on the top side. He's been lifting weights or something, I would guess. So pretty nice detail work though on the masked part here. The color looks a little off to me for whatever reason. It's a little bit more orangish than I would like, but overall it's not too bad. It works for what it is, I suppose. Articulation wise, the head does spin 360 degrees. We do have some up and down motion, not a lot, but enough, I guess, to get by with. Standard ball and swivel at the shoulder joint, ball and swivel at the elbow joint, and the wrist itself here, the half wrist, is just a swivel joint as well. So pretty standard, nothing really special here. We do have the waist twist, or the rib cage twist, I guess would be a better way of looking at it. And he does have ab crunch feature as well, so that's nice. Standard T-hook at the waist, and double knee joint as well, and a ball and a swivel at the ankle. So yeah, overall a little bit better articulation than we saw with Cobra Commander. Looks pretty nice. The wasabi, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong, but that's fine. It's pretty much the standard one we've seen in all the Storm Shadow releases. It does have the nice Arashikage, did I get that right this time? Arashikage clan symbol on the blade. It does fit in the smaller sheath on his back there pretty easily. The larger katana, again, has that same clan symbol on the blade. And beyond that, it's the same one we've seen everywhere else. So nothing too outstanding on this thing. Nothing really spectacular. The hands are a little bit loose, so it's kind of hard for him to hold on to this thing very easily. But it's serviceable anyways. And the katana does slide into his pack as well pretty easily. So yeah, overall it's a decent figure. I do like the throwback to the Valor vs. Venom interpretation of Storm Shadow here. It works pretty well. It's a little bland here. I mean, he does have some nice little doodads on his web gear here, some nice silver buckles, some nice detail work, but it's just a little bit lacking in my opinion. But it is serviceable, and it's a nice alternative costume for Snake Eye. Storm Shadows. I keep doing that, but yeah. So, pretty cool looking Storm Shadow figure. Not the greatest in the world, but it is what it is. Next up, we have another Duke release. This time they're using the same basic body as Mutt. So I always have liked that particular figure, but in this particular case, just, first glance here, the head looks a little bit small. It's a little out of proportion. So you're just going to have to get around that. Deal with it, I suppose. We do have a little rubber band here holding his weapon in place. So let's go ahead and yank that off. Got a couple of different accessories here. So we've got obviously the assault rifle. The traditional assault rifle. Let's just go ahead and look at it. It's the traditional assault rifle that Duke has always had. Kind of plain, kind of bland, but for whatever reason, I've actually always liked this gun. This one is slightly larger in size than some of the previous ones we've seen, which is a little odd to me, but for whatever reason, it is. It's still a nice assault rifle. Again, if you know the specifics on the type of weapon it is, feel free to leave a comment down below and let us all know. We also have a pair of binoculars. Nothing really spectacular about these things. They do have some decent detail work on them, but they're kind of big for a pair of binoculars. They do fit well with the character. They go around his neck and kind of work pretty well, but kind of a throwaway accessory for me. We have a cool backpack. Looks like the same one that we've had with Airborne and a couple other different figures. All in black this time, so you can still see the detail, but it's kind of harder to kind of make out some of that stuff. He's got a little small shovel there in the back of the pack. Fits really nicely on his back here. And it does blend in well with the rest of the color scheme going on, so he's got that much going for him. The other accessory he has is also another pistol here. This one is different than the one that came with Cobra Commander here, so just note that. Again, I'm not really sure what type it is, but it is one of the, I guess, slightly larger pistols that we've had in the sets. And unfortunately, the way his hand is, he is not going to be able to hold on to it very well in either hand, to be honest with you. But it's nice that you have a holster there, so just kind of stick that in the holster and you're good to go. I'll point out it's really loose in there, so it's going to fall out pretty easily. So not the best design in the world, but at least we have a holster, so I'm happy about that, and I'm not going to complain a whole lot. So that's the accessories for this guy. The actual figure itself, aside from the weird discrepancy in the size of the actual head versus the body, the figure itself does look really nice. I do like the color scheme here. It's got some very subtle camouflage going on in the pants here. The nice bright green, and they've got like a darker, almost forest green kind of color there, but it's really hard to kind of make that out. It works pretty well, but I would have liked to see a little bit more contrast in those two colors, so that at a glance it just needs to pop a little bit more. I do like the black and the tan on his vest here. Again, it's the same one we saw with Mutt, but it's still a nice vest. Very cool looking. Arms and everything look a little bit funny, to be honest with you, but we've always had some problems with these particular arms. Not the worst in the world. It could have been a lot better, but it could have been a lot worse. Moving past all that, let's look at the articulation. The head does spin 360 degrees and has plenty of up and down motion. The actual head sculpt itself is pretty decent for a Duke. It's got that very cartoonish look to it. So it's pretty interesting, to be honest with you, even if it is a little bit too small. Standard ball and swivel at the shoulder joint. Standard ball and swivel at the elbow joint. just standard swivel at the gloved wrist. Then we do have the chest twist feature, and he does have ab crunch as well, which is surprising that the vest he's wearing isn't really hampering that much at all, so that's nice. Standard ball and T-hook at the waist, slightly limited on its motion there, but front and back is not bad at all. Double knee joint there with the cool knee pads. Then a swivel and rocker there at the ankle. So all in all, pretty good articulation here. Just same basic articulation we see with everything else, but it's still nice that it's there. It works pretty well. The vest is removable. You can pull it off, and it looks more like a regular Duke underneath there. But it's nice that he does have that kind of vest here. It does work pretty well with the character. I do like it. It looks pretty well. So all in all, this is really not a bad Duke figure. If you swap out the head with a different Duke figure, you're probably going to be a whole lot better off. And overall, it looks pretty nice. I do like the color scheme they've chosen, and the the contrasting brown and black there does pretty good. So yeah, all in all, it's not a bad figure. Got quite a few decent accessories. Nothing outstanding, so it's not gonna blow anybody's mind here. But it's cool for what it is. So there you go. There's Duke. The last figure in this set is Snake Eyes. And I'll say from the beginning, the actual figure itself is based off the sculpt from the 1989 version of Snake Eyes, the Commando version. And I've always actually really liked this particular sculpt, so it's got a little bit of an edge going into this review, just so y'all know. I really like the actual concept here in the sculpt, so I'm going to probably be a little bit more lenient than some of the other ones here. That being said, so it's a new Snake Eyes figure. It is in a slightly different color scheme. It's supposed to be more reminiscent again of that Valor versus Venom line. It is going to be hard to kind of see on the screen, I'm sure, but the actual color scheme is kind of a mixture between a gray and a brown. And I don't know exactly what color that actually is, but it's definitely something different. And I think for the most part it definitely works. It's kind of like a smoky brown color. And that's probably the closest I can get to describing that, but take a look and drop some comments down below. Let me know what color you think it is. Still looks pretty cool though. It's again an alternate costume for Snake Eyes, so if you have the 25th anniversary release of this, it's going to be basically the same figure, so you're not really going to be going into it for the sculpt, but it's nice to have some alternates sometimes. So that being said, let's go ahead and start taking a look at the accessories here. We'll start with his cool little nunchuck things here. It's a 3-part staff thing, and I don't know what the actual official term for this type of weapon is. If anybody out there is a better weapons expert than I am, drop a comment and let us know. That's how we learn. Still, it's a really cool little 3-segment here, nunchuck kind of thing. Got some very nice detail work on it, some nice spikes on it, some nice detail in the actual grip on it. And I don't know if you can see that on the screen or not. It's kind of hard to get the light here, but very nice looking little weapon here. We also have a little pistol here. Again, it's different than the ones we've seen with the other figures in this particular set. Some nice detail going on here. Just plain enough to kind of be nondescript, I guess. It does have a, he does have a holster on his side of the web gear here that the pistol slides into, so that's nice. I really don't know why they didn't package the web gear on him. I guess it's to give you an option as to whether or not you want to bother putting it on or not. But since it comes separately, we'll consider it as an accessory here and take a look at it. So it's pretty standard web gear. We've seen this in the past for a couple of different figures, but it still looks really nice. Got some nice silver highlights on the grenade and on the buckles here, there, and abouts. Lots of little pouches and stuff going on. And the holster on the side for the pistol there. So really nice looking. Going back to Snake Eyes himself, though, he does have his cool weapon here. We've got this cool sword that the original vintage line figure kind of popularized or made famous, or whatever you want to look at it as. It's a slightly updated version of that. It does have the holes that were actual holes in the original vintage figure. These are filled in, so it's just straight plastic at this point. Really nice job though with the paint scheme here, and some nice detail work on the hilt. Can't quite make out that kind of dragon claw looking thing holding the orb that is a little bit more pronounced in the vintage figure, but still, it's a nice figure. It's a nice sword. Looks really cool. And it does fit in his backpack rather easily. It also fits in his hand rather snugly, so not nearly as loose as the one we saw with Storm Shadow earlier, so you shouldn't have any real problems with that. It does seem to be a little shorter than I would like. Again, it's more or less supposed to be a tactical sword, and they are, I guess, slightly smaller, but in my head, the vintage line was much bigger than that, and was I always kind of like the long swords myself anyway, so but whatever. There we go. There's the sword. We do have the backpack here. It's the same backpack we've seen in the previous releases of this guy. Nice black kind of paint job here. Some nice detail work on it. If I can get the light here to show y'all. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. Some climbing claws, some throwing stars, some little spiky bits. Length of rope at the bottom, and some kind of, I guess, bedroll or just blanket there at the top. Still looks really nice. Does a really good job. Fits on his back very easily. No problem there. It's not going to slip off or anything, so that's a good thing. The other thing that I will consider an accessory here are the knives on his chest. We do have a little bit of that clear rubber band here that we're just going to cut off. They put that on there because these knives on the front have a tendency to fall off. Yank that off here. But these are removable, so you just pop them off like so. There's a little bitty peg there on the back of them, and on his chest here there is a little peg hole, and that's how you attach them back. You just line those two up and press it back in place. Luckily this one is staying on pretty well, so that's nice. But let's take that off again for a moment. There are actually two pieces here, so you pry it a little bit more, and that pops off again, and then you've got these two awesome tactical daggers. On the original vintage figure, these were sculpted on and you could not remove them, so it's really nice that they figured out a way to make it so that these were removable. So now Snake Eyes can actually make use of these two tactical daggers, and actually fit in his hand really well. So that is a bonus point here for this figure. that you have this really cool tactical butterfly knife kind of thing going on. And we can slap that thing back on there. Very nice, very cool. I really love that particular feature there. So, really nice. Moving on to the actual figure itself, since that's what we're at right now. Again, some really nice detail work here. They do a good job. This particular color scheme does a good job of highlighting all the detail work, the little scales and stuff in his actual costume itself. They've got some really nice silver highlights all over the place, which probably is not the best idea for a stealth figure. Not going to do a lot of sneaking there with that much silver going on, but it still looks nice. Articulation wise, well, before we get to that, so on the original 25th anniversary release, he also has a piece of gear that attaches to his head here. This is the same sculpt, so it's still got that same attachment point, but this particular figure does not actually include that little spy cam headgear thing here. So if you have that 25th anniversary version, you can kind of attach it here. It'll work fine. The head does spin 360 degrees and has plenty of up and down motion here. This guy actually looks a lot like Spider-Man to me, to be honest with you. Maybe that had something to do with the original draw to the character, but whatever. Just pointing that out. He kind of has the Spider-Man eyes going on. He does have the ball and swivel at the shoulder joint, ball and swivel at the elbow joint, and standard swivel at the wrist. We also have the rib cage articulation there, so it twists all the way around, and quite a bit of ab crunch feature going on there. So pretty cool there, very nice looking. Standard T-hook at the waist, no danger of limitation there whatsoever, so the ninja Snake Eyes can go do a side kick and knock somebody's head off, whatever you need to do. It does have a double knee joint and a ball and swivel here at the ankle. So all in all, really nice articulation. Again, some really nice detail work going on in this guy, and it just works really well. Let's go ahead and yank this web gear and see if we can slap it on him and see what it looks like. Take just a second here. Luckily this thing is pretty flexible here, so you don't have to worry too much about it going off kilter. You don't have to pull his head off or anything to get it to go on there. So slap that on there, and we'll slap his backpack back on there. I will point out that with the web gear on there, it does kind of make his backpack a little bit harder to stay on, but not that bad. Slap his tactical sword back in there, and there you go. He's all geared up and ready for battle. So yes, that's this figure. The web gear doesn't really add a whole lot, to be honest with you, and it does make a little bit harder to keep this thing on. So it's going to be kind of up to you as to whether or not you want to keep it or not. It does give him access to be able to use that pistol in the holster, but beyond that, it really doesn't add a whole lot. The knives kind of are a little bit oddly placed right there next to that grenade there, so it makes it a little bit more troublesome than it's worth. So you may end up just not using that extra web gear, and that's probably why they included it as an accessory and not as part of the figure in the package. But still, it's a nice kind of alternative here. The color scheme, again, works pretty well. And kind of is kind of greenish now that I'm looking at it as well. So yeah, that's kind of weird. Greenish, brownish, gray, whatever you want to call it. Still a cool figure. and really not bad. I don't think it tops the original single card release for this figure, but again, it's a nice alternative costume, so yeah, still awesome. So those are the 4 figures we get in this set. All in all, it's not really a bad set. You get 2 really good figures and 2 ho-hum figures, in my opinion anyways. So whether or not it's worth the actual asking price, I would probably still say it is, because again, you get 2 really nice figures here, and again, 2 other figures that you can take or leave. But because this particular set doesn't really call for a hefty price there, it was probably worthwhile for you to pick up. But, you know, it's easy to see why this thing is not really going for a whole lot on the secondary market right now, because, again, it's not the best set in the world and really doesn't have a whole lot of extra value to it. But for me, it's nice to kind of see some of these extra alternate costumes for these characters that we would not probably have normally got to see. So I do like it, and I think it's worthwhile for me. But as far as, you know, recommendations to other people, I would probably say you can pass on this one. You would be probably a little bit better off to just pick up the Snake Eyes and Cobra Commander figure separately. But, you know, probably for the same price, you'd end up just getting this set, and you get a fairly decent Snake Eyes. I can't talk today. Fairly decent Storm Shadow figure. An interesting attempt at a new Duke figure. An awesome Snake Eyes, and an awesome Cobra Commander. So, there you go. Do with that what you will. That's all the time we've got for today, so thanks for watching. Drop some comments down below to let us know what you particularly think of this G.I. Joe Greatest Battles set. If you actually got around to watching the actual DVD included with that, you know, drop some comments, let us know what memories kind of came back for that. If you'd like to see anything particular in the future, you know, let me know that as well. I'll see what I can do to accommodate you. And, you know, hit that like button, subscribe, whatever, share it with your friends. Till next time, Yo Joe!